Welcome to another Pearl Lemon Legal YouTube video. So today we're going to discuss how to speak like a lawyer, how to sound professional, authoritative, assertive. And I know what probably comes to mind is TV shows like Boston Legal or Suits, where you've got a guy like Harvey Specter who sounds really cool and verbally runs rings around his opponents. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to discuss some practical, hopefully easy to implement ways that you can sound similar to that. And we're going to go through those now. So the first thing to be aware of is also something that we see a lot of people get wrong, but you want to be aware of your tone and your presence. You want to sound measured. Don't speak too fast. Don't speak too slowly. Speak the way you would if you were writing an email. And don't use too many colloquial phrases. So that would be how to sound professional. You're not going to call someone dude or bro. You'll refer to them as sir. You'll be polite, even if you probably don't like the opposition. So as cool as Harvey Specter can be, you can't call people an asshole in court or in a letter that you're writing. So bear that in mind. Another very common mistake is that people aren't concise. When you're writing a legal letter, document, when you're making a statement, even when you're in a bit of a dispute over email, we find the layman has the tendency to over-egg the pudding. And ideally what you want to do is you want to know what you're saying and say it. Don't repeat it. Don't embellish. Say exactly what you're saying. And in most cases, that is the more authoritative, strong way to go anyways. And to do that, it helps to prepare and organize. So prepare what it is you're going to say, organize your thoughts, organize your strategy, and then correctly cite authority. So if you are in a case where you feel your consumer rights have been breached, make sure to refer to the Consumer Rights Act, but make sure to refer to the Consumer Rights Act in the right case. So review the facts. The next thing you might be interested to learn a bit more about is some of the jargon and vocabulary that legal professionals use. Now, there is a bit of legal jargon, some of it's in the slide. Things like claimant, defendant, summons, claim forms, witness statements, quantum. And the reality is that most of these are easy enough to understand. Quantum, perhaps a little more tricky, and that's normally something that we see come up in compensation for damages, claims or letters, and it refers to calculating or quantifying the amount of the damages. Claim forms are forms used to issue legal claims. Who would have thought? Witness statements it's a breakdown of what you believe happened. And normally you want to stick to evidence without going into what you feel happened or what you feel should happen or what the law says should happen. Summons is to summon you to court. The claimant is, if you were to compare it to American law, the plaintiff. The defendant is the defendant. Another thing to be aware of is just use full sentences. Don't use phrases. As we said before, don't be colloquial. Use business-like language. All right, now the part that most people are probably excited about is, how do I be persuasive? How do I win? Well, do your research. Make sure you know what you're talking about. And if you don't, speak to someone who does. Speak to a professional. Speak to someone who's gone through it before. Don't rely on just your ability to Google or, phone citizens' advice. The resources are out there. And if you're not sure after that, or if you'd like a little bit of assurance, speak to a legal consultant, speak to a solicitor, a barrister, and get a bit of professional advice. Next thing is never be intimidated. And even if you are, don't show it. A lot of the time before you've gone to court, the other party is just trying to work out if you either think or know that you have a strong enough case. And that the key there is not to ignore, but to show that even though you've just received a legal letter, a claim form, a notice, that you're not afraid, that you believe in your case. To do that, have a strategy. And then lastly, if you do appear in court, then it does help to use the correct etiquette. Judges do look favorably on someone that shows up on time, that's polite, that refers to them as your worship or sir or madam, depending on the courts. And they appreciate you respecting them as well and respecting their courtroom. It never hurts to get that right. The last thing to say, and this is a bit more of a long-term strategy, and that's simply to read. Most lawyers are out reading you. They're reading briefs, they're writing briefs, they're reading claim forms, case summaries, they're reading all day and probably reading at night as well for their enjoyment, although I'm sure many nowadays watch Netflix instead. But if you want to give yourself a better chance when it comes to a legal dispute and you've decided to represent yourself, reading is going to upskill your ability to use correct vocabulary, impressive vocabulary, and phrases that make sense in context. So that would be our last piece of advice, which is just read. All right. We hope you enjoyed today. We hope you watch again tomorrow, and we look forward to you hitting that like button and the subscribe button.